Learning to Be Here, Part 4 of 7. The following week begins with a damp gray light that seeps through the blinds, painting the walls in muted silver. I wake early, though. The bed feels heavier than usual, the sheets resisting my movement. Outside, the city hums softly, the distant clatter of trams, muffled footsteps on wet pavement, the intermittent hiss of a passing car. I lie for a moment, letting the sounds anchor me, then swing my legs over the side of the bed and stand. My apartment smells faintly of damp fabric and coffee, an ordinary familiarity that somehow feels comforting. In the kitchen, I measure coffee grounds with deliberate slowness, listening to the kettle whistle as steam curls into the corners of the room. The chipped blue mug waits for me on the counter. I trace its rim with my finger and feel the tiny fissures in the enamel. The act of noticing, of lingering over these small details, has become a kind of meditation. I write in my green notebook. Rain makes the air thick with quiet. Watching droplets, counting patience. The words seem insufficient, but they carry weight in their simplicity. I dress slowly, choosing layers that respond to the chill without constraining movement. The jacket is stiff at the shoulders, the scarf soft against my neck. I step outside, the city waiting like a half-formed thought, and walk to the tram. The umbrella I carry is too large, catching gusts of wind and tilting awkwardly. I adjust it with one hand, holding my bag in the other, and notice how the rhythm of walking in the rain slows everything, including my heart. At the office, Marta greets me with her usual half-smile. She notices the flower stem on my desk from last week, now slightly wilted. Keeping it alive is harder than keeping a plant, she says. I nod. It's the challenge I need. She laughs softly, a sound that feels like an acknowledgement that she sees me more fully than before. The day proceeds in the familiar cadence of meetings, emails, and phone calls, but beneath the surface, I am quietly reshaping my attention. I pause in hallways, watch the play of light on walls, listen to snippets of conversation that used to pass unnoticed. During lunch, I suggest we take a short walk, despite the persistent drizzle. Marta hesitates, but eventually follows. Under her umbrella, we move through streets slick with rainwater, the city reflected in puddles like a distorted mirror. She talks about her brother, who recently moved abroad, and I notice the tenderness in her voice when she mentions him. I listen, trying to resist the habitual urge to respond immediately, instead letting silence and attention be my reply. Back at the office, a small disruption unfolds, a miscommunication with a client, a sudden change in schedule. My instinct is to react quickly, to solve, to control, but I catch myself. I take a breath, reread emails, and draft responses with deliberate care. The day is slightly longer than expected, but the act of slowing down seems to transform the tension into something manageable. Evening arrives, and I leave the office feeling a faint ache in my shoulders, but also a quiet satisfaction. I buy a small loaf of bread on the way home, noting the baker's careful hands and the warmth of the shop. At home, I place the bread on the counter, the aroma mingling with the lingering scent of tea. I open my notebook, writing, "Even mistakes slow themselves when attention is paid. Rain teaches patience." The words feel truthful. I call Clara in the evening, lingering on the phone longer than usual. She speaks about Elias's day at school, the small victories and annoyances, and I let myself laugh freely at his stories. The conversation is unhurried. There is room for pauses, for reflection, for simply hearing one another. When I hang up, the apartment feels fuller, less empty. I prepare tea, watching the steam rise and curl toward the ceiling. The rain outside continues, persistent but gentle. I sit at the table, notebook open, pen poised. Small victories today: walk slower, listen longer, smiled wider. The city moved, but I stayed present, attention as offering. I pause, feeling the weight of these small acts of care. Later, I wash the dishes, noting the temperature of the water, the feel of the suds, the rhythm of scrubbing and rinsing. There is a meditative quality to it, a grounding presence that I have long ignored. Even the act of drying and stacking dishes becomes a ritual, a reaffirmation that the ordinary can hold grace if attended to fully. I consider the week ahead, feeling the subtle pull of obligations and responsibilities. Yet there is a difference now. Urgency is no longer the driver. The choices of pace, of attention, of noticing the small, often unnoticed details have shifted the shape of my days. I linger at the window, watching the reflections of streetlights on wet asphalt, the blurred outlines of people moving with umbrellas, their faces hidden, their movements intimate in their ordinariness. Night deepens, and I close the notebook, leaving it beside the blue mug. Outside, the rain continues its quiet chant, each droplet a reminder of persistence, of gentleness, of the slow shaping of days into something coherent and lived. I sit back, inhaling the damp, rich air, feeling the pulse of the city through the walls, feeling the echo of my own heartbeat as a companion rather than a task. In this suspended moment, I sense a new rhythm emerging, fragile but steady. The week's tensions, the small frictions of office life, the weight of memory, they coexist with a tentative calm that is not imposed but allowed. And in that calm, the notion of a gentler ending no longer feels like a phrase, but like a practice. I close my eyes for a moment, listening to the city's pulse, feeling the damp fabric of sheets and curtains, the familiar hum of the radiator. The ordinary has become profound. By the time I lay down, the rain has slowed to a soft drizzle. I trace the edges of the notebook on the table before switching off the light. Thoughts of Clara, Marta, Ilias, and the small acts of attention linger. The week has been a collision of memory, duty, and quiet intention, a tangle I am learning to navigate without forcing resolution. Sleep arrives slowly, carrying with it the gentle possibility that tomorrow will offer another stitch, another chance to practice presence, another chance to unlearn the rush that kept me shallow. Part 4 of 7 complete.